Hello, my dear friends. Um, I read the title of the discussion that we have planned to do here. So I think I assume right that this is about democracy and that democracy is in danger. That is the opinion that some people have, and a lot of people think that that's an exaggeration. That's a overblown claim by some people. So what I wish to do is to start by saying that the reason why we are discussing democracy is because, of course, it's not dead yet. We are not doing an inquest. Uh, but there is a perception that democracy is sliding into the precipice. Democracy as an institution, is it valid, or is it on the way to extinction? These are some of the questions that some people have started raising, and it's quite. This is in sharp contrast to what we used to feel at least some 30 or 40 years ago, until 2010s, when we had the Arab Spring. We had starting from '94. We had end to apartheid in South Africa, and we had so many revolutions. You put a color before the word revolution. You have velvet revolution, rose revolution, you had tulip revolution, you had rose revolution, you had a lot of revolutions, and we felt that democracy is getting strengthened, whether or not it was true, and whether or not the intention behind all these pro-democracy movements were what we thought those things to be. But now we are worried. So that is the primary premise of the reason why we are gathered here to look into, to maybe try to understand better what is happening to democracy. A lot of others do say that it's an exaggerated claim, but this is a trend that we see all over the world. This is not just happening in India. Where citizens are arbitrarily punished. You have had lynchings, you had arrests of people, people are thrown into jail. I'm not talking specifically about India, but throughout the world, wherever you have this sliding effect, democracy on a slippery slope, you find these things happening. So, which is why even in India, we have this concern. Also, this coincides with the massive rise of surveillance capitalism. And a lot of people, Mr. John Brittas is a member of parliament. He can vouch for the fact that there has been a greater level of surveillance of people within the government and lawmaking bodies. And so alongside, you also find parliamentary democracy under attack. So the likes of John Brittas would say that things are not easy for opposition members because for whimsical reasons they are being suspended and they are penalized for just questioning the government. That is their view, and there are a lot of others who think that it's a churn that's happening. We are going through a different phase of understanding ourselves and rediscovering ourselves as a cultural entity. That it's natural. It's a natural corollary to that kind of a movement. So now I'll start with the questions, because it's very important to understand what are the views of people, and luckily we have people who share diverse views here, and it's important that we have diversity. We have heterogeneity. It's not necessarily that heterogeneity always leads to very reduced toxicality, but it's important to understand views from different corners. So I'm going to ask John Brittas the first question. Mr. Brittas, you've been associated with Parliament, so I'm going to focus on what your thoughts are on democracy as a parliamentarian, from the pulpit of the biggest lawmaking body in India. And you have been a journalist covering both the Houses of Parliament since the late 1980s, and you've been an MP also. So I just want to know from you, take us through that journey of transition in the way journalism is understood, in the way journalism has become, and also how lawmaking as a process has become. And also, I want to ask you something related to that, because it's a counter question.
Please ask me. I'm waiting
no. I'm asking you, something very specific. No, this is a problem with all politicians. They don't want you to ask enough questions. But anyway, this one more question I want to ask is: he won a Best Parliamentarian Award recently. So he won the Best Parliamentarian Award because he could perform in Parliament. So this is the question. So are you really saying that it's difficult to perform in Parliament when you have won a great award for performing so well in Parliament?
Thank you, Mr. Ulek, for the long introduction about this topic. And I would say that such a debate on democracy or lack of democracy or too much of democracy can happen only in very few states. Now, Kerala, luckily, is a platform for such discourses. You won't be in a position to take this debate to any other state, including Saba's place, Delhi or anywhere else. That's the best part of it. And even in Parliament, I don't think you can have such a candid discussion about democracy. You can obviously have a discussion about construction of a mandir or a demolition of a mosque. That's the plight of the thing. Coming to democracy, see, I feel that the Indian Constitution has told us that we have parliamentary democracy in this country. That is what the emphatic statement of the Indian Constitution. Parliamentary democracy means, the basic tenet of parliamentary democracy means the executive should be accountable to the parliament. That is the basic premise of parliamentary democracy. Think about this scenario. You can ask a question for yourself. Is the executive which we are having now, is it accountable to parliament? These are times when even Prime Minister or even the Home Minister will not be coming to parliament to respond to your questions. These are times when issues like Manipur cannot be debated in parliament. These are times then questions of opposition MPs are spurned off. These are times when mass retrenchment, I would say suspensions happen in parliament, 146. So at a time when the basic premise of the parliamentary democracy is in question, I don't think we can say that we have a democratic process which is naturally, which has been envisaged by our constitution makers. Second aspect, I will not take much of time. Second aspect is that any democracy can thrive only if it is probed and proved. See, there is a tagline of, I think, Washington Post, Saba, you have to correct me. It says that democracy dies in darkness. It simply means that if you don't have a relatively reasonably free media, independent media, no democracy can survive. In India at present, I feel that. In Kerala, obviously, any media person has the right to speak about anything and everything, to can accuse anybody, charge anybody. I always support that. But beyond Kerala, beyond the south, I don't think any media has the right to point their finger at the ruling regime. And that's why I gave a coinage. Instead of media, Saba, you should bear with me. We don't have media. The E has been taken out and O has been inserted. So now you have Modia instead of media in this country. So these are times when we need to discuss whether the democracy can survive. Of course, such discussions can happen only in Kerala or only in very few states. Thank you.
So, Vineetha, Mr. John Brittas says that the muscling of the media is so dire that media was forced to yield completely, and he calls he has been in journalism for a long time. and now we call the media of today as Modia. Do you think it's an exaggeration? Because media is in the freedom of press index also, steadily we have been falling. We were.
It's a compliment to her.
No, whatever that is. So in 2022 we were at 150, and then in 2023 we are at the 161st position. So do you think it's a concerted effort by a certain group of people to say that this is something unique about this government, or that has it been happening all the time, since we've been free?
Right. Thank you so much. Really pleasure and honor to be here in the Mathrubhumi International Festival of Letters. And very rightly said by Brittas ji that we're privileged to have this kind of discussion, and I really congratulate Mathrubhumi for fostering and catalyzing these kind of discussions and debates, and playing the apt role of a media house, a leading media house in the country, so to speak. But I think we have this we've just had recently a festival of literature in Jaipur. And so we've had these kind of festivals across the country, and I think it's a misnomer or a myth that we can have it only in a particular state. Of course, Kerala is part of India, so we are having this kind of discussion in a free country, in a free democracy like India that is today. And I think the topic, as it were, it is called democracy, whether it's stillborn, whether it's unborn, stillborn, or reborn. So democracy has always been in our ethos, especially in the Indian context, right from the inception of civilization. I think Indus Valley was the biggest example of free, fair, equity, and governance in all its best forms, Indus Valley, and then so on and so forth. And all our folk tales are replete with examples and anecdotes of discussions and debates and democracy. So we can never take away that ethos or that spirit of democracy from ourselves, from India. And I think it was unborn. I mean, it was stillborn for some periods during our entire history. If you say during the freedom struggle, it was unborn. And I mean, it was stillborn, and it was suppressed in the British Raj, and we had freedom struggle. We had leaders like Gandhiji, father of the nation, leading the independence struggle. But eventually, we had independence. We gave birth, the labor pains gave birth, again, reborn independence, born again independence, but with the aftermath of the partition. So that was about, 18 million people displaced, 1 million people, casualties. And so that was the biggest tragedy that we've had in history ever. And that was again on fault lines of religion. So I think that that was a period when democracy again became stillborn. And then we had painful processes of economic reform, so-called 5-year plans, the long-drawn 5-year plans, and the kind of growth that India should have seen, in so many years. We did not see that pace of growth because we had focuses divided. We had focus on industrialization at the cost of agriculture, so on and so forth. And I think now is the time when democracy is truly reborn, because we've empowered our Grama Panchayats, our Grama Sabhas like never before. And Grama Sabhas are biggest examples of direct democracy. Representative democracy is what we see in Parliament, but Gram Sabhas is direct democracy, and that's like empowered like never before in India through the various funds, the various capacity building that we're doing to our Gram Sabhas. They're involved in their own development, and our development, the development philosophy of today begins with the Grama Panchayat, and we are saturating all our basic services, all the facilities and infrastructure on the Grama Panchayat so that they are prosperous and they are empowered. Democracy just doesn't mean freedom of speech. Of course, it's very important, freedom of speech, but it's also important that people who speak are empowered and are capacitated to speak, and that's what we're doing now, a 360-degree development.
But, again, there are concerns, because there are instances of violations that we have not seen in free India. For instance, in the whole history of Indian Parliament, there has never been an occasion when even a single member demanded a division, meaning vote. It was never denied. But we had Om Birla denying when a large group of people sought a vote in Parliament. So there has been a lot of occasions, like, when statesmen are sought from people in the top echelons of power, like the Home Minister, on crucial issues like the Manipur issue, or for that matter, whatever intrusion into Parliament that had happened. The retaliation was vehement that so many members were suspended from parliament. These are unprecedented. Of course, I would like to believe that there are a lot of local governance, a lot of robust work that is happening. I take it for face value when you say that. But when you look at the key reasons why there are worries from not just from people in India but from academics outside of India, it's not necessarily because of their ideological preferences or anything of the sort, but because of concrete facts. So what do you think? So many things are happening in Parliament. Do we need to worry about them?
So, Parliament is a sanctified house of discussion and democracy, as my John Brittas would definitely agree with me, but he has a smile on his face. But definitely the Parliament is the house where you need to have discussions and debates, and there was never a denial for discussion or debate even on the Manipur issue. I think the Home Minister also came forward and spoke, and there was also the Prime Minister coming forward later and speaking. So there was never a denial of discussion. It's the way you protest, it's the way you treat the Parliament. If you have to take it as a dignified house where it's the apex body of democracy. So you need to treat it with that kind of respect. And if it's just sloganeering and hooliganism, I think that is not accepted as a form of protest. So, and I think this is not the first time that parliamentarians are being removed or suspended. It's happened in earlier regimes as well, but that does not justify anything else. But it's also, you have to look at the other side of the spectrum as well, as to the conduct of parliamentarians and the way you protest and the way you have opposition. If it's constructive opposition, if it's productive discussions, then definitely it's encouraged, is what I would say.
Before going to Saba, I'll just add 1 second. See, as per Vineetha's version, India was born in 2014 and we started having a parliament only after that. She should at least look back to the history where a honorable leader of the BJP had said, disruption of the parliament also is a parliamentary activity. Because of the massive disruptions done by BJP, he had to bring such a theory to justify that. Now she says that you need to be like school children. You cannot, raise slogans. You cannot, shout there. You cannot get into the well there. India was born, ma'am, in 1947.
All due regards, sir, I took it from the time of Indus Valley. So I never said that 2014 was when India was
we'll let you
reborn.
Continue to debate. But before that, I'll go to Saba. Saba, you have not become a member of parliament yet, but you have been a journalist for a long time, enduring the grime and dust of especially northern India. You have traveled from east to west, and there is an apocryphal story that you were asked not to leave your hotel room by a chief minister in one state capital. I don't know whether it's true or not, but it's an apocryphal story. But whatever that is, this had happened before. So, my question to you is, because as a journalist, you've been around as a journalist for more than 30 years. So do you feel there is a muscling of the media that's happening in an unprecedented scale at the moment?
So this is working, right? The mic. Hello, everyone. I'm very happy to be in the south. If I spoke Malayalam, I wouldn't go back to the north. But sadly, I returned. Because I think you're very proud of your language, and thank you to the Mathrubhumi group for having me there. We are discussing, is democracy unborn, stillborn, or reborn? I think the world over, if you look at democracies the world over, we need a new language to understand. There is in electoral democracies in Europe a tilt towards the right. We have a tilt in India also. India is much more diverse. We have practiced democracy in different linguistic zones. That doesn't happen anywhere else. You have Malayalam here, you'll have Hindi there, you'll have Tamil next door. So we are exceptional. But undoubtedly the single largest party of the day is the Bharatiya Janata Party. And it is not just majoritarianism. I think what you were trying to say is that the country is now being reborn. But members of the BJP have suggested that there is a new rebirth that took place on January 22, to which the MP in Parliament asked, Mr. Brittas asked, is the Prime Minister the head priest, or is the head priest the Prime Minister? This was an excellent quote. But getting away from that, I think the question is also, it's about authoritarianism. So what has happened in Parliament, I have never seen that kind of thing before, even though now I'm not allowed into Parliament. Most people are not. I have never seen, there used to be fighting in the well of the House, that no legislation goes to committees. They just pass it with a brute majority. And the manner in which 146 MPs was suspended was shocking. It's never happened on that scale before historically. And what was the demand? Just remember that somebody jumped into the well of the House and the MPs demanded that the Home Minister should come and make a statement. And the Home Minister did not want to, so they suspended them. This is not a classroom. These are the purpose of what will unfold over the next few months. When the elections begins, is that your representative will go to the Parliament and speak your language, speak for you, and ask questions of the government. Not an obedient chamber where you worship a supreme leader. That is when democracies do get threatened, but it is never the end of the world, because we have also seen a trend the world over where authoritarian figures now come through the ballot box. They don't come with a gun. So that is also a trend, but there is also a pushback. And I think India is vibrant enough, and I think the voices from Kerala, and I live in Delhi, and I will carry on speaking with all the power that I have, but there are threats involved, surely, and to the question of media spaces, yes, they have shrunk, and that's fairly evident. I don't even have to answer that. It's so clear that the media spaces have shrunk. The media is nothing but an extension of giving, they never ask a question of the government, ever. Only the online media does. And there will be new bills to control them also. The ordinary media tell me the last scam that they have uncovered, So I just want to get back, since we're talking about democracy, what is curious about what is happening in the world is that you have billionaire politicians who are now being seen as representing the people. And I speak not just of Donald Trump, but of other figures also. So we need a new language to understand what is happening in a world where prejudice about immigrants, in India it's about minorities, becomes plank for politics. That's the larger framework in what is happening. So certainly democracy right now, when Parliament doesn't function properly, it is the one measurement of democracy. Then you do worry. And when media is completely stifled, and those who we call journalists are nothing but sort of people who broadcast the speeches of the Prime Minister, and they propagate communal divisions. That is part of the media ecosystem.
But as a columnist, do you self-censor what you write?
I mean, if I was to tell you my journey as a columnist, the minute I left Outlook, I got so many columns. But then slowly, somebody said to me that the PM did not come to our summit. So we are worried about the,
But did this happen before when Chidambaram was Home Minister also in some...
No, it was different. And listen, the UPA, by the time it ended, the UPA term, every day there was a scam coming out in the media. And there was an Andolan on corruption called the Anna movement. And they were discredited entirely by that. UPA 2, UPA 1 had a good run, where the left was part of the government also. And they brought in some good legislation, pro-people legislation. But UPA 2 was just, media was asking them questions all the time. It's not on the scale of what we are seeing now. You think anyone can ask questions? Rahul Gandhi asked questions about Adani, and suddenly there's a case from Gujarat that comes and he's expelled. Is that normal? Mahua Moitra asked about Adani and she's gone. The two people who have asked about Mr. Adani are gone. That's a fact. But what is also interesting, I'm linking it to a larger phenomena. I'm not saying it doesn't matter that you must ask about corporates and all, but there seems to be the world over where the working classes don't seem to care about these issues, where they're going for billionaires actually, who are not interested in protecting the workers. And they're going for a dose of ethnic prejudice or anti-immigrant prejudice. There's some trend which is happening in the world. It's not just happening here. And in our neighboring country, You've seen a completely bizarre situation just now where the army controls the mandate. So even in South Asia, our democracies are challenged, but India is still a functioning electoral democracy, but it has shades of very strong promotion of partisanship against a section of Indian citizens. You have institutions which are buckling over. You have things like election commission and all. There is a new bill being passed. Law, it's become a law, right? To exclude the Chief Justice of India from choosing the election commission. Even the judiciaries, a judiciary often functions as a representative of society, but here, so if that is happening, our judiciary has on many issues just seems to be giving verdicts which can be, we can all critique them. You know, one doesn't want to say very much about that, but the point is, so yes, our democracy is there. We have voices which will continue to fight for it, but we are going through a phase when we are seeing authoritarianism and majoritarianism together function together, and everybody else who dares to fight is being sent. The enforcement agency lands up, and political finance has always been an issue in India. The fact that we don't have scrutiny over political finance, and this is something that predates the BJP. But today the BJP is richer than any party has ever been in India's history. This is not me saying it. Look at the data. Nobody has so much money. According to certain data sets, 2019 election, we spent more than Donald Trump spent on his 2017 election. This is data, you know. So where is this money in a poor country coming from? Who is giving? We don't know, because you have a system of complete opaqueness in political funding. And I think that is the heart of the rot in our democracy, even beyond the obvious things of majoritarianism and all that. As long as big money goes in and corrupts the system, we will have a problem. But yeah, we are still an electoral democracy.
Yes, you know, all these things to do with election funding, all these things are a matter of concern. Also, the fact that we don't have too much of data at hand, you know, census has not been published, figures have not been published. But I now come to John Brittas, who is also a member of the IT Parliamentary Standing Committee. And so what worries me much more than a lot of other things is the fact that even the cabinet colleagues of the top people in power are under surveillance. And how is surveillance capitalism acting at the behest of the government at the moment?
Before coming to this pertinent question, I would just add on to Saba, just to give a wholesome view of that. These are all tangible numbers, of course, which Vineetha cannot dispute. Earlier, just to give you a bird's eye view of what's happening, what should be happening in Parliament. Earlier, if a bill is introduced in the Parliament, will debate over it. They will call the interested parties for getting evidences, and after due process, the bill would be reformed or refined or modified, altered, and it would be sent back to the Parliament. Now, even 10% of the bills do not come to the Parliamentary Standing Committees. Second, once the bill from Parliamentary Standing Committee goes to the Parliament, there are discussions, lengthy discussions, debates, then amendments. Now, important bills like the criminal bills, telecom bill, digital data protection bill, all these pieces of legislation which would have far-reaching implications in your lives for generations to come are passed without even a debate. Can you imagine such a situation in any other country? And I don't know about these criminal bills. Anybody here in this hall, can you get up and say which are the names of these three bills passed by the Parliament? Can anybody say the names? I am challenging you. Three bills which have been passed by the Parliament to replace IPC, CRPC and Evidence Act. Is there anybody who in this hall can get up and say, which are these three legislations, the names of that? Can anybody say? You won't be in a position to say that. Even I don't even know. There's an article 348 of the Indian Constitution which says that the bills, the legislation should be in English. This is in Sanskrit. Sanskrit. Can you imagine what is happening in this country? See, our freedom fighters, the founders of the Constitution, wanted this country to tread on a modern path. Now we are going back. Without a Trishul, we can't. Shengol. Trishul also will come shortly. That's what I'm saying. It's my premonition. It's already, targeted at me. Without a Shengol, this democracy cannot go ahead. These are relics which you should have obviously dumped in the dustbin of the history. Vineetha's party always harps on Sardar Patel. He is the person who dumped all the Simhasans. When India was free, 500 plus princely states we had. He said nothing to do with this. We don't want their Shengol. We don't want their crowns. We don't want their Simhasans. You are bringing back. I am sure 18th Lok Sabha, if Vineetha's party win, there will be a Simhasan placed in parliament. You know for whom? You know it. Now, coming to this IT committee, I can say very well. I can tell you one thing. Day before yesterday, there was a question on the floor of the House. The question was with regard to the alerts received by senior politicians, journalists from Apple that the state-sponsored hacking is happening. Beware of it. That means some state agencies are invading into your mobile instrument, that is iPhone. Many of them complained. Then there came a statement from the minister that it has been referred to the CERTIN. CERTIN is that emergency response computer team formed by the government of India. Day before yesterday, when this question came, I wanted to ask a question to Aishwarya Vaishnav. He knew that what I was going to ask. Because the CERTIN had summoned the Apple security team from America to render evidences. They rendered evidences. But so far, the report of the CERTIN has not been publicized nor laid on the table of the House. It's all completely shouting. What does it mean? If they have nothing to hide, they should publicize. They should make it public. The report of the CERTIN and also the evidences rendered by the security team of the Apple company, which came all the way from America to render evidences to the India team. So now you can imagine that. I can tell you, I got a call from a cabinet minister's staff last time. It was with regard to a start question. The staff called me in WhatsApp, whether I am available or not. Then he asked me, sir, do you have a FaceTime? I said, I do have a FaceTime. The minister would only talk to you on FaceTime. Then I understood that your WhatsApp calls are not confidential. Beware of it. Take the cue from me. Hereafter, Mr. Rajashekhar has a tendency to chat with a lot of people in WhatsApp. Beware. WhatsApp is not safe. I got a cue from the minister. The only thing, a vertical which is more or less reasonably, I would say, intrusion-free would be FaceTime. Saba, you know that. Yeah.
But FaceTime is only Apple, so that's very costly. Huh?
That's what I'm saying. So this is the plight of this country. So now you should say that whether you have any value of privacy in the company. And just look at the bills which have been passed in the name of nationalism, patriotism. The government agency can howl you up and put behind the bars. This is the condition.
Vineetha, there is a lot of attack on your government, your party's government. So, how do you respond to these serious allegations? These are not, these are strong charges. So, how do you respond to these things? So, I just want to add one more thing about it. So, what is, you are an accomplished public policy person and you have a solid grounding in academics. and you work closely with the government, so you interact with a lot of people, and dissemination of information, how schemes are channelized and things like that. So where all do you see streams of democracy or democratic credentials? Because yours is a party that has won with a massive majority and things like that. So are they exercising caution in terms of not removing, I want to stress on that, not removing the guardrails that protect democracy?
No, so if you look at the other side of the story of digital transformation, so we know now how many of us have, many of us would be born in the digital era where Paytms and UPI platforms are, the norm of the day. They wouldn't even know about cash earlier. So, and the kind of transformation, digital transformation that governance has had over the last decade, it's beyond comparison. And that is the platform which has actually revolutionized the whole development paradigm. And as you know, democracy is of the people, by the people, for the people, revalidated again and again by elections after elections, whether you like it or not. It's the BJP government that people want again and again. It's validated and revalidated. And the average voter is much more learned today, much more empowered through the schemes of the Modi Sarkar, as you call them. And if you look at our basic coverages, the basic services coverages before 2014, I know Brittas ji would say that India was reborn in 2014. According to me, yes, we were reborn in 2014 because sanitation coverage was below 50%. I studied in the Lee Kuan Yew School in 2010-11, and my professor asked me that the UPA was in power, UPA 2.0, and they asked me, aren't you from the country that still has manual scavenging? And I was squirming in my seat. But today we are a proud nation with open defecation free. Rural India is open defecation free. You may have statistics to prove otherwise, but United Nations, everybody else, you may dig out some, I don't know, out of the blue statistics, but it has been validated and revalidated by agencies, international agencies. You can't fool the public at large. So no, let me complete. So everything, see, we are not claiming it 100%, but we may have over 90%, from under 50% to over 90% sanitation coverage. So that cannot be ridiculed. What are we talking? We're talking in, glass houses here. Then we look at all the other services, look at water, look at houses. And I've gone to village after village, not only in south of India, but north of India, all of them, Tamil Nadu, Rajasthan, Jharkhand. So all of them have said how these programs have actually impacted their lives positively. And we're talking about the average poor voter on the ground. Okay, I'm talking from their lens, from their perspective, because you asked me what is the effectiveness of these programs. So the effectiveness is there. It has been vouched by people on the ground. And this is done through the digital revolution. Yeah?
Yeah. We don't want to go by Arnab.
No,
we are not students of Arnab Goswami School of Journalism. No. We don't want to interrupt when people talk. But you can answer. But, again, I also wanted to ask you another question. We all know what the implementation of the schemes are about, and even I have traveled a lot. So the LPG scheme, when it was launched with a lot of fanfare, and the people are not able to. Most women are not able to refill their LPG cylinders, and they have started using firewood in many parts of Uttar Pradesh, and they have started, and those people who have toilets, they don't have water supply, they have started going back to the fields to relieve themselves. These things have happened, but these things we know, and we can keep debating on this. But my question, what I wanted to ask you is this: there's a lot of infantilization of people that's happening. Like I was talking to one of those people, Professor Steinringen is seated here. Sir, can you put your hand up? Yeah, he's somebody who has done a lot of research on democracy. He is a professor emeritus from Oxford University. He has written a wonderful book on democracy called Democracy Lives, and I would want him to ask questions to the panelists here. But the point is, there is something that James Baldwin called disesteeming people. That is, like, you rob the person of esteem, that you tell a person that, bang, all these things at a certain point of time, to fight off COVID, what were you asked to do? The Prime Minister asked people to do, whatever. So, and when...
my answer will be much shorter than your question is going.
Yeah. So, and on January...
Whatever you are asking me, it will be shorter.
Yeah, you can. Okay. Then, what do you think of this infantilizing method that the government is using at the moment?
I don't, look, I come, since I'm from Delhi and my family has a village in UP. In UP, I think you should know, they say, aata nahi hai, data hai. You understand that? There is no food, but there is data. But the government is giving free ration. So fundamentally, what is being done through this, and if you notice, Prime Minister Modi, everybody had debates saying the budget was so great because they didn't give freebies. This is the media language, freebies. As if it's not the people's money, as if it's government's tijori, and they give some, throw something. But the truth is, while the assembly elections were taking place in November, I think on some date, the Prime Minister announced a 5-year extension of the free ration outlay. I will just tell you this one. There's an excellent another book here called Unequal. The author is here because I had done her book event in Delhi. She's a student of Jean Drèze and she worked in the field. She compared a district in Bihar with a district in Bangladesh for 5 years, another district in Bihar with another district in Nepal. So India has a larger GDP, but on sanitation, you cross the border and they are better than us. So let's talk. And I will take you to places where people are still entering the drains. So I get so offended on their behalf that you should say that people do not enter the drains.
But would you agree that
without protection,
you agree we are better off
every day in India? Please don't say that. You are insulting the desperation that makes people enter the drains.
What are you talking about? I mean, don't you think that we are better off than...
You said there is nothing. You said
I said, aren't we better off than 2014?
I think both of them appreciate I talk when I talk. Yeah. See, one thing where Vineetha has succeeded to make Mahatma Gandhi the brand ambassador of sanitation. They have succeeded. Though they, have high respect for Nathuram Godse, they made Gandhiji. See, Vineetha, you should not have a cherry picking of the data. If you rely on your own data like NFS latest, you should see that. What is the status? It's revealing. So when you say that you have given 12s to everybody, you should also rely on your own survey because you don't have a census now. It's only country in the world don't have a census. Again, I'll tell you, just to add on to Saba, see, this country can survive with 3 verticals only. One is democracy, second is secularism, third is federalism. Without 3 verticals, you cannot survive. Please understand that. One word which always comes from this government is cooperative federalism. I'm telling you, the federal character of this country is going through a very, I would say, the sad status. See, the best PDS, public distribution system in the country, it can match up to the developed world, is Kerala's PDS. You want to strangle PDS of Kerala, you are bringing your own atta. Bharat rice. Could you ever imagine about a situation like that? You are breaching the powers of the state like this. So unless you have democracy, unless you have federalism, unless you have secularism, the unity of this country is in peril. I am telling you. Now, even if your minister comes here, forcefully make the people to, have the slogan, Bharat Mata Ki Jai. Every day you want us to declare our, faith in this country. We are as patriotic or more patriotic than you. You want us to obviously declare by raising this slogan. The audacity of a minister coming to Kerala, forcefully asking people, everybody in this hall has to raise this slogan. Ye hamara India hai yaar. Can you forcefully, do you want us to declare our faith and patriotism by raising slogans? See, this is a sad state of affairs of this
So
country.
I'll go to Vineetha. Vineetha,
Vineetha
do you
has
have
to
any-
answer.
Do you have any disagreements about what he has said about federalism?
She is in agreement, complete agreement with me.
Yes, so I agree with you. Yeah, thanks for the clap track, which is all one-sided. So I agree with you, the three pillars: secularism, democracy, and the
Secularism also.
obviously, yes, definitely, we are a secular government. So I agree completely with that. So the three pillars I don't dispute, but cooperative federalism, yes, I agree that we are structured on cooperative federalism, and there's no narrative against that, and the statistics are there for us to prove, and the kind of devolution of funds that we've seen through the 15th and 14th Finance Commission to the Gram Sabhas, and the kind of devolution of tax shares that we have done, although the governments may disagree time and again that we're not devolving the funds, which is absolutely a false narrative. So if there is no allegiance to the central government, and if Kerala wants to function in its own way, then why do we go with a begging bowl again and again to the central government saying that we want funds? We want more funds when we want more funds. What have we done with the funds today? What has the Kerala government done with the existing budgets? How has the management of funds been? That's a different debate altogether. We won't get into that. But still, we need to reflect on the way we have handled our budgets. Compare the budgets of various other governments, how they've raised their own resources. We were just discussing over food today afternoon that Kerala's bane is its passive economy, the consumer economy that we are getting into, the kind of money that we're getting from NRIs. We don't want to take any efforts on our own and build our own industries or build our own manufacturing bases. So we don't have our own resources. So we go back again and again to the central government asking for money. So why? So if you don't believe in the Modi government's programs, you don't believe in the Modi government schemes, and why go back again and again to the central government asking for more funds? And what about all the programs and policies that we have devolved to Kerala? What about all the basic services we have given to Kerala? You cannot deny that. The center share. The center share is huge.
Why do UP deserve so much more of?
So there is a formula of allocation, which Brittas ji may agree. There is a formula of allocation, so which is based on population and all of other
What
factors.
is this, Vineetha, you're
etc.
talking about? It's not your money, it's our money.
No, yeah. So who said so? So we're
Who
not
gave you money?
denying
It's
that.
our money.
So yeah. So you do whatever you want and don't go back.
We are giving 1 rupee, we are getting hardly 45 paise. You take it.
Then don't come back to the
Give
central
us what
government
is
asking
due.
for money.
And I will tell you one more thing. Last line I will tell you. See, the Finance Commission said that 41% should be given to the states. You know what you did? See, you went for duties and surcharges, collected humongous amount. Now, effectively, the states are getting hardly 30%. Kiska paisa hai? Hamara paisa hai? You are giving to other states, okay? It's as though you are saying that you are printing money and giving to us.
Yeah.
It's our money.
are
We
short
collect
of
the
time.
money. We
We'll
give it to
go
you.
for questions. You'll have time to answer all those things. Let's start. Who wants to ask? So you want to ask? Okay, please ask.
Yeah, first is not a question, but a suggestion to you. You can be a little more shorter in your questions and introductions, so that I was just noting that you are taking around 50% of the time.
What is your question?
Yeah, I'm coming to that. If
So
you had
can
asked
you
this
be a
question to
little short?
yourself,
Can you
the
be a
session would
little
have
short?
been much
Be a
better.
short, be a little short.
So I have a question
why
to
don't you-
Mr. Brittas. Madam was saying that since Kerala is in India, such an event is happening.
Don't make statements. Ask your question.
Yeah, that applies to you as well.
Yeah.
And so, sir.
I'm the moderator.
Yeah,
I
sir.
make opinions.
Sir, I'm coming to the question.
Yeah,
Madam
why
Madam
don't you
was
sit down?
saying.
Why don't you sit down?
No.
You
Is this
sit
a way?
down.
Is this
sit
a
down.
way you
sit
handle a
down. What
session?
is the problem?
The topic is democracy,
No, you
sir.
ask the question. What is
yes,
your question?
I'm asking, sir. Sir, Madam, Mr. Brittas, Madam was saying that in Kerala, because it is in India, we are having sessions like this. But in Delhi, you might be very aware, in Surjit Bhavan, a program called V20 was happening, and the Delhi police was barging in and stopping the event. Is that the democracy Madam was talking about? And the second question is, Madam was speaking highly about the democracy and the values of democracy and parliamentary democracy. In the history of Indian independence, in the Lok Sabha, the other house, we don't even have a deputy speaker. And
Thank you. I mean, you should see. I studied in JNU for 6 years. Earlier, we used to discuss about anything and everything under the sun. Can you imagine? You cannot have an open debate in JNU nowadays. This is the plight of this country. She's talking about Jaipur Literary Festival, whether you will pat his back, somebody will pat somebody's back. It's not what we want. We want an open discussion on everything, which is not permitted. You can't even exhibit a movie where the censor is there. Can you do that? You brought in with a Setpitang movie to tarnish us. What is that Kerala story? We showed here. Everybody saw it.
Yeah,
Did we block that? No.
Dr. Steinringen, I don't ask you.
Well, I'll start with the question and then I'll elaborate.
We can't hear you. Louder.
Is that right? Yeah. And my question is to John Brittas. And the question is, what is the opposition doing? Now, I have been speaking to journalists and others during this festival and listening to you, and it's quite troubling what I'm hearing about the way, the procedures of governance and democracy in India. But is it enough if you represent the opposition in Parliament to complain about how badly you and Parliament are treated? Isn't it, in my studies of parliamentary democracy, I find that the quality depends very much on the quality of the opposition. And the discussion here today, I hear complaints, but it's not enough for the opposition in Parliament to complain. The opposition in Parliament must have a strategy of working. Now, you have a constitution. The constitution is being overruled, overridden, and Parliament is accepting that. Now, that is the fault of Parliament. So what is the role of the opposition in Parliament when you are observing that the constitution of which you are the custodian is being overridden?
Thank you, sir. This is something where we need to introspect, and it's a suggestion for action. Nevertheless, I would say that, sir, this is a country where there's a free, discussion is allowed. But if you look at the parliamentary proceedings, we are unable to come up with topics which needs to be discussed in the parliament. Sabha was talking about, the breach of the parliament security. Think about a state is burning for last 10 months. Out of 28 states, there's a state called Manipur. It's burning for 9 to 10 months. We are unable to discuss that issue in the parliament because the government doesn't permit us. This is a situation. And second thing is that the central agencies are being unleashed just to haunt the opposition leaders. You take any opposition leader, there is a case against each of them. This is the plight of the country. And third thing, Sabha said that last election, according to an independent organization, 62,000 crores were spent on electioneering. 62,000. Out of 62,000, 50,000 crores have been spent by BJP alone. And I am afraid in 2024, Vineetha's party would be spending more than 1 lakh crore. Please translate into dollar afterwards, okay? 1 lakh crore. Humongous amount. That means the democracy is being driven by muscle power and money power where we cannot match, sir. That's the question.
Okay. So one more question, yeah.
Yeah, I saw that when Ms. Saba was talking about judiciary, she watered down her content. She said she didn't want to talk about the judiciary. So my question is, why are we afraid about talking about the judiciary, the current state of judiciary? And do you think that contempt of court is being used as a nail in the coffin of democracy? An extension of that would be how independent is the Indian judiciary?
No, I'm just saying it's not done to comment with you can have an editorial opinion, but to talk casually, you can invite complaint on yourself. That is a norm, especially speaking in a public stage.
We'll take one more question. Oh, yeah. The person there, black shirt. No, let him ask the last question.
My question is to Vineetha ma'am. Ma'am, the 17th Lok Sabha has the least number of sittings, as well as the least number of, less than 20% of the bills were referred to the parliamentary committees. That is also a backsliding from about 70% back in 2014. So how would you take on this particular argument, these facts, with a narrative that the democracy is not backsliding in India?
So the 17th Lok Sabha also had a 97% efficiency. That is also a statistics that is there. So you see, if you want disruption at the cost of development, then so be it. If that was what you want, that is the India that you want, that is the country that you want, where you have disruptions after disruptions, and you don't let the parliament function, and you don't let anything happen in the country. Look at the kind of development paradigm. Why is everybody missing that over the last 10 years? So maybe Kerala is a rich state, and you don't need those kind of services that we are rendering across the country. Although Saba might have some isolated case studies of one toilet not functioning in a particular district, in a particular village. Yes, we're talking about 1 billion people. Therefore, there will be some, kind of loophole somewhere or the other. But if you look at the average Indian and the average voter, how happy is he? That is what is the question today. And how, satisfied is he on the ground? And what are the kind of, outreach, and what is the kind of schemes that are penetrating to the average voter? You please check outside of Kerala, because Kerala, I think you all are a very, very rich society. Perhaps you don't need these kind of basic services. But at the same time, we have a lot of things happening for a state like Kerala. Like you have beyond the aspirational districts, we've gone to startups, we've gone to MSMEs, all the kind of programs and policies that we've done for MSMEs. These are all benefiting the state of Kerala as well. And these are central sector schemes where there's no state interference. Therefore, the central government can push funds directly to the MSMEs. So that's how you see the growth of MSMEs even in Kerala, where it's supposed to be a labor, kind of business unfriendly state, but still MSMEs are doing well here because we have, without any interference, funds going directly to MSMEs. So I think we'll have to look at development as a narrative beyond disruptions for the sake of disruptions. And democracy is not just disruptions. Democracy is constructive opposition, like our learned friend just now spoke about. So I think that's how I'd like to rest my words. Yeah. Thank you.
I think you have one more question. Clarification. No. I think this is an ongoing debate, and people can keep talking about this subject for a long time. I think, as we wind up this discussion, what worries me the most is the government's decision to infantilize the citizens, asking them to do this, that, and deprive them, rob them of the dignity and their what is the opposite of empowerment is what concerns me is the most. This could be a perception, and this debate might go on, but here we end.